conflict report and war in Ukraine, the 6th of April. The trade war. US President Trump has now announced the latest tariffs. Cambodia got the highest with 49%, followed by Vietnam at 46%, and we then have China at 34%, and the EU will get 20%. General tariffs for all countries are at least 10%. There are some exceptions, and the main one is Russia. The reason is that there is no real trade between the countries, even though they still trade at around $3.5 billion per year. Heard Island and McDonald Island has got 10% tariffs, even though they are uninhabited. China has announced that they will introduce 34% tariffs on US goods starting on the 10th of April. They will also restrict the export of some rare earth minerals. The European Union has so far not announced what actions they will take. They are reported to have a meeting with its US counterpart. There has been talks about hitting the US service sector, where the US has a trading surplus towards the EU. But we can likely expect a more measured response from the EU than we have from China. However, that will likely be up to a point. Should the tariffs be left in place, the EU will have to respond. As Trump is rather unpredictable, it's very difficult to make any conclusions at this time. We can, however, draw some conclusions based on what will happen if the tariffs are left in place as is. We can predict that growth will slow down. That will likely not be visible right away, but we will see that into 2025. The reason is, of course, it will take some time for the tariffs to take effect. US tariffs will hit US consumers, and the reciprocal tariffs will then hit consumers in China and the EU, and so on. And that will have a domino effect. We can also expect that inflation will increase. Consumer goods will become more expensive, so I do rather expect high inflation into 2025. If the world economy is slowing down, that will have an impact on the oil price. I do expect that OPEC Plus will retain some of their production cuts, but the question is how long that is viable. So I expect a lowering of the oil price, probably in 2025, very likely in 2026. We are also likely to see new free trade deals coming into effect during 2025-26. If the US market is less viable, then countries or blocs will try to offset that. That will not be visible in the short term, but in the coming years. Companies outside the US that will benefit are companies that are in competition with US companies regarding exports. US producers will likely lose in competitiveness over time. Companies that will struggle are the ones exporting to the US and US companies exporting outside the US that are hit by reciprocal tariffs. So we can expect significant turbulence in the coming months, and we will start seeing the effects sometime after that. How long it will take, that is very difficult to say, as it will depend on the supply chain, what export markets will be affected, and what reactions we will see. War in Ukraine. Weather. Kharkiv. We can expect some showers and snow in the coming week, with some days of partly cloudy weather. The temperatures will be between 4 to 13 degrees Celsius. Svatove, similar to the weather at Kharkiv, days of showers with some days of partly cloudy weather. Donetsk City, mostly cloudy and showers, some few days of partly cloudy weather, between 5 to 12 degrees Celsius. Kherson City, mixed weather, less showers here. The Ukrainian General Staff reported 178 combat engagements in the last 24 hours. Kursk area. We have ongoing fighting in this sector. Russian attacks continue and we have a possible minor Russian gain in this area. We have reports that Ukraine continues counterattacking, but I have not been able to confirm that. We had 17 combat engagements reported by the Ukrainian General Staff. We can expect ongoing heavy fighting here. Russian gains are not unlikely over the coming week. Probably they will be limited, but bigger gains cannot be excluded. North of Kharkiv. We have limited fighting reported, no confirmed changes. We can expect limited fighting over the coming week. Changes are unlikely at this time. Kupiansk-Svatove area. The Ukrainian General Staff reported 6 combat engagements over the last 24 hours. We have confirmed Russian gains in the Kamyanka area, which is close to the Russian border. I have no other confirmed changes in this sector. Russian forces continue to push over the Oskil River, and it looks like Ukraine is somewhat struggling to halt Russian forces from crossing the river. They are, however, able to slow down Russian forces and so limiting their gains as they cross the river. The tactical situation remains problematic in this area for Ukraine. We can expect ongoing Russian pressure here. We have some reports that Russia might be assembling reserves in this area, but that information is not confirmed. Kremina area. 26 Russian attacks reported since yesterday. We have Russian gains at Novolyubivka, where they have expanded their bridgehead and are pushing towards Katerinivka. I have no other confirmed changes in this area. Russian forces continue to exert pressure, especially in the Katerinivka direction. We can likely expect ongoing Russian pressure in that direction over the coming week, and additional Russian gains are not unlikely over that time period. While the situation is not critical by any means, it is somewhat concerning that Russian forces are expanding their bridgeheads. Overall, they are still relatively limited. Siversk salient, Bakhmut, Toretsk. At the Siversk salient, we had 5 combat engagements in the last 24 hours. I have no confirmed changes since yesterday. We have reports that Russian forces are mostly using non-armored vehicles in this sector. I do not expect any significant or even minor changes here over the coming week. At Chasiv Yar, we had 3 Russian attacks reported. We have attacks at Chasiv Yar, but also further south in the Andrivka area. I have no confirmed changes since yesterday. We have Russian VDV forces reported active here. At Toretsk, we had 20 Russian attacks reported since yesterday. We have limited Russian gains in southern Toretsk. No other confirmed changes. Russian forces continue to exert pressure in this sector. They are, however, struggling to make any significant gains. We also here have reports of limited use of armored vehicles by the Russian army, possibly indicating a significant lack of such vehicles. We can expect Russian pressure at this level over the coming week. Donetsk city area, Pokrovsk sector. Here we had 75 Russian attacks reported. We have heavy Russian pressure in this sector. We also have some Ukrainian counterattacks reported south of Pokrovsk. I have no confirmed new changes since yesterday. ongoing heavy fighting, and that is likely to continue over the coming weeks. We can also expect Ukrainian counterattacks over the coming weeks. Based on the current situation, it is unlikely with major changes here, but increasing Russian pressure could see the dynamic change. Ukraine continues to conduct an effective but difficult defensive battle. West of Donetsk city, we had 8 Russian attacks reported in this general area. I have no confirmed changes. Russian sources report Russian gains at Roslyv, but I have not been able to confirm those by other sources. Expect ongoing fighting here, less intensive than at Pokrovsk. Vremivka area. Russian attacks continue in the Fedorivka area and to the west. No confirmed Russian gains. I expect ongoing Russian pressure in the Fedorivka area. Limited Russian gains are not improbable. Kamyansk area. Russian attacks continue from Robotyne to Kamyansk. No confirmed gains since yesterday. We can expect ongoing Russian attacks here. I assess Russian gains are less likely over the coming week, but of course they cannot be excluded. General conclusions. Russian attacks remain at a relatively high level, and I see no direct indications they are about to decrease over the coming weeks. We can expect some Russian gains, more likely in the Kupiansk and Kremina area. The Russian bridgeheads over the Oskil River and over the Sherebets River are somewhat concerning, but will likely not change the overall situation in the coming week. Regarding Russian armored infantry vehicles, all indications are pointing towards them running low, which has been the case for some time. We should see a pivot point around this summer. That does of course not mean that Russia will run out of such vehicles, but it will likely be more apparent in the reporting. Regarding Russian tanks, it is less likely that will be as apparent as for infantry armored vehicles. Russia still has plenty of old tanks they can refurbish. Russian sign-up bonuses continue to increase, which indicates a lack of contract soldiers. Now, high bonuses will likely see an influx of additional contract soldiers. However, this Russian strategy, in my opinion, is unsustainable past this year. It must be said that both sides are worn down by this war, and Ukraine is also struggling in several areas. End of report.